Charles V and the Peasant. This is a sonnet taken from Valerie's Caesar that Valerie supplies the structure and I supply the local detail, the color. Elected Kaiser, burgher, and a knight, clamped in his black and burly harness, Charles canters on Titian's sunset to his night. The wounded wolfhound bites his spurs and snarls. So middle-aged and common, it's absurd to picture him as Caesar, the first cause behind whose leg of mutton beard the jaws grate on the flesh and gristle of the word. The fir trees in the background buzzed and lurched to the disgruntled sing-song of their fears. How can we stop it, stop it, stop it, sing the needles? And the peasant, braining perch against a bucket, rocks and never hears his ark drown in the deluge of the king. War. Where basilisk and mortar lob their lead, whistling against the cloud sheep overhead, scarlet or green before their black-tongued sire, the massed battalions flounder into fire, until the furnace of affliction turns 100,000 men to stone, and burns the poor dead in the summer grass. Their friend the earth was low and thrifty to this end. It is a god, untouched by papal bulls, the great gold chalice and the thuribles, cradled on its hosannas, it will rock, dead to the world until their mother, fat with weeping underneath her cracked black hat, hands it her penny knotted in a sock. The Shako. Night and its muffled creakings, as the wheels of Blucher's caisson circle with the clock. He lifts his eyes and drums until he feels the clavier shudder and allows the rock and siller of her eyes to fix his face. It is as though he looks into a glass, reflecting on this guilty breathing space his terror and the salvos of the brass from Brandenburg. She moves away. Instead, wearily by the broken altar, Abel remembers how the brothers fell apart and hears the friendless hacking of his heart, and strangely foreign on the mirror table leans the black Shako with its white death's head. Her Dead Brother, Part 1. The lion of St. Mark's upon the glass shield in my window reddens as the night enchants the swinging dories to its terrors, and dulls your distant wind-stung eyes. Alas, your portrait coiled in German silver hawsers mirrors the sunset as a dragon. Enough light remains to see you through your varnish. Giving your life has brought you closer to your friends. Yes, it has brought you home. All's well that ends. Achilles' dead is greater than the living. My mind holds you as I would have you live, a wintering dragon. Summer was too short when we went picnicking with telescopes and crocking leather handbooks to that fort above the lank and heron sheepscot, where its slopes are clutched by hemlocks spotting birds. I give you back that idol, brother. Was it more? Remember riding, scotching with your spur that 4-foot milk snake in a juniper? Father shellacked it to the ice house door. Then you were grown. I left you on your own. We will forget that August 23rd, when Mother motored with the maids to Stowe, and the pale summer shades were drawn, so low no one could see us, no, nor catch your hissing word as false as Cressid. Let our deaths atone. The fingers on your sword knot are alive, and hope that fouls my brightness with its grace will anchor in the narrows of your face. My husband's Packard crunches up the drive. Part 2. The ice is out. The tidal current swims its blocks against the launches as they pitch under the cruisers of my brother's fleet. The gas, uncoiling from my oven burners, dims the face above this bottled water which the knockabout my brother fouled and left to eat its heart out by the Boston light. My brother, I saved you in the ice house of my mind. The ice is out. Our fingers locked behind the tiller. We are heeling in the smother. Our sails, balloon and leg of mutton, tell the colors of the rainbow. But they flap as the wind fails and cannot fetch the bell. His stick is tapping on the mill wheel step. He lights a match, another and another. The Lord is dark and holy is his name. By my own hands into his hands. My burners sing like a kettle, and its nickel mirrors your squadron by the Stygian landing. Brother, the harbor, the torpedoed cruisers flame, the motor launches with their searchlights bristle about the targets. You are black, you shout and cup your broken sword hand. Yes, your whistle across the crackling water. Quick, the ice is out. The wind dies in our canvas. We are running dead before the wind, but now our sail is part of death. Oh, brother, a New England town is death and incest, and I saw it whole. I said, life is a thing I own. Brother, my heart races for sea room. We are out of breath. Falling asleep over the Aeneid, the lines I'm going to read are spoken by an old man in Concord, Massachusetts. On a Sunday morning, he's fallen asleep and forgotten to go to the morning service. And he's been reading the Aeneid, and he's been dreaming, and he falls asleep and imagines he is Aeneas celebrating the funeral of Pallas, an Italian prince. The sun is blue and scarlet on my page, and yucca, 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 yucca rage the yellow hammers mating. Yellow fire blankets the captives dancing on their pyre, and the scorched lictor screams and drops his rod. Trojans are singing to their drunken god Ares. Their helmets catch on fire. Their files clank by the body of my comrade, miles of filings. Now the scythed-wheeled chariot rolls before their lances long as vaulting poles, and I stand up and heil the 1,000 men who carry Pallas to the bird priest. Then the bird priest groans, and as his birds foretold, I greet the body lip to lip. I hold the sword that Dido used. It tries to speak, a bird with Dido's sordid breast. Its beak clangs and ejaculates the Punic word. I hear the bird priest chirping like a bird. I groan a little. Who am I and why? It asks the boy's face. though its arrow eye is working from its socket. Brother, try, O child of Aphrodite, try to die. To die is life. His harlots hang his bed with feathers of his long-tailed birds. His head is yawning like a person. The plumes blow, the beard and eyebrows ruffle. Face of snow, you are the flower that country girls have caught, a wild, bee-pillaged honeysuckle brought to the returning bridegroom. The design has not yet left it, and the petals shine. The earth, its mother, has at last no help. It is itself. The broken-winded yelp of my Phoenician hounds that fills the brush with snapping twigs and flying cannot flush the ghost of Pallas. But I take his pall, stiff with its gold and purple, and recall how Dido hugged it to her while she toiled laughing, her golden threads a serpent coiled in cypress. Now I lay it like a sheet. It clinks and settles down upon his feet, the careless yellow hair that seemed to burn beforehand. Left foot, right foot, as they turn, more pyres are rising, armored horses, bronze, and gagged Italians who must file by ones across the bitter river when my thumb tightens into their windpipes. The beaks drum. Their headman's cow-horn death's head bites its tongue and stiffens as it eyes the hero slung inside his feathered hammock on the cross staves of the eagles that we winged. Our cost is nothing to the lovers, whoring Mars and Venus, father's lover. Now his car's plumage is ready, and my marshals fetch his squire Cetes, white with age, to hitch Ethon, the hero's charger. And its ears prick, and it steps and stately tears lather its teeth. And then the harlots bring the hero's charm and baton. But the king, vainglorious Turnus, carried off the rest. I was myself, but Ares thought it best the way it happened. At the end of time he sets his spear, as my descendants climb the knees of Father Time, his beard of scalps, his scythe, the arc of steel that crowns the Alps. The elephants of Carthage hold those snows. Terms of Numidian horse unsling their bows. The flaming turkey-feathered arrows swarm beyond the Alps. Pallas, I raise my arm and shout, brother, eternal health, farewell forever. Church is over, and its bell frightens the yellow hammers as I wake and watch the white caps wrinkle up the lake. Mother's great aunt, who died when I was 8, stands by our parlor saber. Boy, it's late. Virgil must keep the Sabbath. 80 years. It all comes back. My Uncle Charles appears, blue-capped and bird-like. Phillips Brooks and Grant are frowning at his coffin, and my aunt, hearing his colored volunteers parade through Concord, laughs and tells her English maid to clip his yellow nostril hairs and fold his colors on him. It is I hold his sword to keep from falling, for the dust on the stuffed birds is breathless, for the bust of young Augustus weighs on Virgil's shelf. It scowls into my glasses at itself. Mother Marie Therese. The speaker in this poem is a Canadian nun stationed in New Brunswick, and she's reflecting on her mother superior, Marie Therese, who died some 20 years perhaps before. Old sisters, at at our Maristella house. Remember how the mothers strangled grouse and snowshoe rabbits matched the royal glint of Pio Nono's vestments in the print that used to face us, while our aching ring of stationary rockers saw her bring our cake. Often, when sunset hurt the rocks off Carthage and surprised us knitting socks for victims of the Franco-Prussian War, our scandal set her frowning at the floor, and vespers struck like lightning through the gloom and oaken ennui of her sitting room. It strikes us now, but cannot re-inspire. Faults, faults, and faults, I muttered to my fire. The good old times, ah yes, but good that all's forgotten, like our province's cabals, and Jesus, smiling earthward, finds it good, for we were friends of Cato, not of God. This 60th Christmas, I'm content to pray for what life's shrinkage leaves from day to day. And it's a sorrow to recall our young raptures for mother, when her trophies hung fresh in their blood and color, to convince even probationers that heaven's prince befriending whispered, "Is it then so hard? Tarry a little while. Oh, disregard time's wings and armor when it flutters down papal tiaras and the Bourbon crown. For quickly priest and prince will stand, their shields before each other's faces in the fields, where, as I promised, virtue will compel Michael and all his angels to repel Satan's advances till his forces lie beside the Lamb in blissful fealty." Our Indian summer. Then our skies could lift, God willing, but an Indian brought the gift. "A sword," said Father Turbot, "not a saint. Yet he who made the Virgin without taint chastised our mother to the rule's restraint. Was it not fated that the sweat of Christ would wash the worldly serpent? Christ enticed her heart that fluttered while she whipped her hounds into the quicksands of her manor grounds, a lordly child, her habit fleur-de-lised. There she dismounted, sick, with little heed surrendered. Like Proserpina, who fell 6 months a year from earth to flower in hell, she half renounced by candle, book, and bell her flowers and fowling pieces for the church. She never spared the child and spoiled the birch, and how she chid her novices and plucked them by the ears for gabbling in Canuck, while she was reading Rabelais from her chaise or parroting the Action Française. Her letters from the soi-disant French king, and the less treasured golden wedding ring of her shy bridegroom yellow, and the regal Damascus shotguns pegged upon her eagle emblems from Hohenzollern standards rust. Our world is passing, even she, whose trust was in its princes, fed the gluttonous gulls that whiten our Atlantic, when like skulls they drift for sewage with the emerald tide. Perpetual novenas cannot tide us past that drowning. After mother died, an emigre in this world and the next, said Father Turbot, playing with his text. Where is he? Surely he is one of those whom Christ and Satan spew. But no one knows what's happened to that porpoise-bellied priest. He lodged with us on Louis IX's feast and celebrated her memorial mass, his bald spot tapestried by colored glass. Our angels, Prussian blue and flaking red, he squeaked and stuttered. Nothing is so dead as a dead sister. Off St. Denis Head, our mother, drowned on an excursion, sleeps. Her billy goat, or its descendant, keeps watch on a headland, and I hear it bawl into this 60-knot Atlantic squall, "My mama's baby," past Queen Mary's neck, the ledge at Carthage, almost to Quebec with Monsieur de Montcalm. On Abraham's bosom asleep, perceives our world that shams his new world, lost. However it atones for Wolf, the Englishman, and Huron bones and priests. Oh, mother, here our snuffling crones and cretins feared you, but I owe you flowers. The dead, the sea is dead, has her sorrows, hours on end to lie tossing to the east, cold, without bedfellows, washed and bored and old, bilged by her thoughts and worked on by the worms, until her fossil convent come to terms with the Atlantic. Mother, there is room beyond our harbor, past its wooden boom, now weak and waterlogged, that Frontenac once diagrammed she welters on her back. The bellboy, whom she called the Cardinal, dances upon her. If she hears it all, she only hears it tolling to this shore, where our frost-bitten sisters know the roar of water inching, always on the move for virgins when they wished the times were love, and their hysterical hosannas rouse the loveless harems of the buck-ruffed grouse who drums, untroubled now, beside the sea. As if he found our stern virginity contra naturam. We are ruinous. God's providence through time has mastered us. Now all the bells are tongueless, now we freeze. A later advent, pruner of warped trees, whistles about our nunnery slabs and yells, and water oozes from us into wells. A new year swells and stirs. Our narrow bay freezes itself and us. We cannot say Christ even sees us when the ice floes toss his statue made by Hurons on the cross that Father Turbot sank on Mother's mound, a whirligig. Mother, we must give ground little by little, but it does no good. Tonight, while I am piling on more driftwood and stooping with the poker, you are here, telling your beads, and breathing in my ear you watch your orphan swording at her fears. I feel you twitch my shoulder. No one hears us mock the sisters as we used to, years and years behind us, when we heard the spheres whirring venite. We held our ears. My mother's hollow sockets fill with tears. These are 4 poems in memory of my grandfather, Arthur Winslow. 1, Death from Cancer. This Easter, Arthur Winslow, less than dead, your people set you up in Philip's house to settle off your wrestling with the crab. The claws drop flesh upon your yachting blouse, until longshoreman Charon come and stab through your adjusted bed and crush the crab. On Boston Basin, shells hit water by the Union Boat Club wharf. You ponder why the cox's squeakings dwarf the resurrexit dominus of all the bells. Grandfather Winslow, look, the swan boats coast that island in the public gardens where the bread-stuffed ducks are brooding, where with tub and strainer the midsummer Irish scare the sun-struck shallows for the dusky chub. This Easter, and the ghost of risen Jesus walks the waves to run Arthur upon a trumpeting black swan beyond Charles River to the Acheron, where the wide waters and their voyager are one. 2, Dunbarton. The stones are yellow, and the grass is gray past Concord by the rotten lake and hill where crutch and trumpet meet the limousine, and half-forgotten Starks and Winslows fill the granite plot, and the dwarf pines are green from watching for the day when the great year of the little yeoman come, bringing its landed promise and the faith that made the pilgrim makers take a lathe, and point their wooden steeples lest the word be dumb. O fearful witnesses, your day is done. The minister from Boston waves your shades like children out of sight and out of mind. The first selectman of Dunbarton spreads wreaths of New Hampshire pine cones on the lined casket where the cold sun is melting. But at last the end is reached. We start our cars. The preachers mouthing still deafen my poor relations on the hill. Their sunken landmarks echo what our fathers preached. 5 years later. This Easter, Arthur Winslow, 5 years gone, I come to mourn you, not to praise the craft that netted you $1 million late hosing out gold in Colorado's waste, then lost it all in Boston real estate. Now from the train at dawn, leaving Columbus and Ohio, shell on shell of our stark culture strikes the sun to fill my head with all our fathers won when Cotton Mather wrestled with the fiends from hell. You must have hankered for our family's craft, the blockhouse Edward made the governor, at Marshfield in the slight coin silver spoons the sheriff beat to shame the gaunt Revere, and General Stark's coarse bas-relief in bronze set on your granite shaft in rough Dunbarton. For what else could bring you, Arthur, to the veined and alien West, but devil's notions that your gold at least could give back life to men who whipped or backed the king? Part 4, a prayer from my grandfather to Our Lady. Mother, for these 300 years or more, neither our clippers nor our slavers reached the haven of your peace in this Bay State, neither my father nor his father. Beached on these dry flats of fishy real estate, O Mother, I implore your scorched blue thunder breasts of love to pour buckets of blessings on my burning head until I rise like Lazarus from the dead. Lav abis nos et super nivem de albabor. On Copley Square, I saw you hold the door to Trinity, the costly church, and saw the painted paradise of harps and lutes sink like Atlantis in the devil's jaw and knock the devil's teeth out by the roots. But when I strike for shore, I find no painted idols to adore. Hell is burnt out, heaven's harp strings are slack. Mother, run to the chalice and bring back blood on your fingertips for Lazarus who is poor. Winter in Dunbarton. Time smiling on this sundial of a world, sweltered about the snowman and the worm, sacker of painted idols and the piers of Europe. But my cat is cold, is curled tight as a boulder. She no longer hears her catnip turtle squeaking, for the germ, mindless and ice, a world against our world, has tamped her round of brains into her ears. This winter, all the snowmen turn to stone, or sick of the long hurly-burly rise like butterflies into Jehovah's eyes and shift until their crystals must atone in water. Belle, the cat that used to rat about my father's books, is dead. All day the wastes of snow about my house stare in through idle windows at the brainless cat. The Coke barrel in the corner whimpers. May the snow recede and red clay furrows set in the grim grin of their erosion in the caterpillar tents and roadsides fat with muck and winter dropsy, where the tall snow monster wipes the coke fumes from his eyes and scatters his corruption, and it lies gaping until the fungus eyeballs fall into this eldest of the seasons. Cold snaps the bronze toes and fingers of the Christ my father fetched from Florence, and the dead chatters to nothing in the thankless ground his father screwed from Charlie Stark and sold to the selectmen. Cold has cramped his head against his heart. My father's stone is crowned with snowflakes and the bronze-age shards of Christ. Mary Winslow. Her Irish maids could never spoon out mush or orange juice enough. The body cools and smiles as a sick child who adds up figures, and a hush grips at the poised relations sipping sherry and tracking up the carpets of her four-room kingdom. On the rigid Charles, in snow, Charon the lubber clambers from his wherry and stops her hideous baby squawks and yells, wit's clownish afterthought. Nothing will go again, even the gelded picador baiting the twinned runt bulls with walrus horns before the Spanish bells is veiled with all the childish bebelow. Mary Winslow is dead. Out on the Charles, the shells hold water, and their oar blades drag, littered with captivated ducks. And now the bell rope in King's Chapel Tower unsnarls and bells the bestial cow from Boston Common. She is dead. But stop, neighbor. These pillows prop her that are terrified, and child's cold eyes glass what they're not. Our Copley ancestress, grandiloquent, square-jowled, and worldly wise, a Cleopatra in her housewife's dress. Nothing will go again. The bells cry, come, come home. The babbling chapel belfry cries, come, Mary Winslow, come, I bell thee home. Quaker graveyard in Nantucket, for Warren Winslow dead at sea. Let man have dominion over the fishes of the sea, and the fowls of the air, and the beasts, and the whole earth, and every creeping creature that moveth upon the earth. Part 1. A brackish reach of shoal off Nantucket. The sea was still breaking violently, and night had steamed into our North Atlantic fleet, when the drowned sailor clutched the dragnet. Light flashed from his matted head and marble feet. He grappled at the net with the coiled, hurtling muscles of his thighs. The corpse was bloodless, a botch of reds and whites. Its open, staring eyes were lusterless dead lights or cabin windows on a stranded hulk heavy with sand. We weight the body, close its eyes and heave it seaward whence it came, where the heel-headed dogfish barks its nose on Ahab's void and forehead, and the name is blocked in yellow chalk. Sailors who pitch this portent at the sea, where dreadnoughts shall confess its hell-bent deity when you are powerless to sandbag this Atlantic bulwark faced by the earth-shaker, green, unwearied, chased in his steel scales. Ask for no Orphean loot to pluck life back. The guns of the steeled fleet recoil and then repeat the hoarse salute. Part 2. Whenever winds are moving and their breath heaves at the roped-in bulwarks of this pier, the terns and seagulls tremble at your death in these home waters. Sailor, can you hear the Pequod sea wings beating landward fall headlong and break on our Atlantic wall? Off Sconset, where the yawing S-boat splashed the bellbuoy with ballooning spinnakers, as the entangled, screeching main sheet clears the blocks. Off Nantucket, where lubbers lash the heavy surf and throw their long lead squids for bluefish. Seagulls blink their heavy lids seaward. The wind's wings beat upon the stones, cousin, and scream for you, and the claws rush at the sea's throat and wring it in the slush of this old Quaker graveyard where the bones cry out in the long night for the hurt beast, bobbing by Ahab's whaleboats in the east. Part 3. All you recovered from Poseidon died with you, my cousin, and the harrowed brine is fruitless on the blue beard of the god, stretching beyond us to the castles in Spain, Nantucket's westward haven. To Cape Cod, guns cradled on the tide blast the eel grass about a water clock of bilge and backwash, rile the salt and sand lashing earth's scaffold, rock our warships in the hand of the great god where time's contrition blues. Whatever it was these Quaker sailors lost in the mad scramble of their lives. They died when time was open-eyed, wooden, and childish. Only bones abide there in the nowhere, where their boats were tossed sky-high, where mariners had fabled news of Is, the whited monster. What it cost them is their secret. In the sperm whale's slick, I see the Quakers drown and hear their cry. If God himself had not been on our side, if God himself had not been on our side when the Atlantic rose against us, why then it had swallowed us up quick. Part 4. This is the end of the whale road, and the whale who spewed Nantucket bones on the thrashed swell and stirred the troubled waters to whirlpools to send the Pequod packing off to hell. This is the end of them, three-quarters fools, snatching at straws to sail seaward and seaward on the turn-tail whale, spouting out blood and water as it rolls sick as a dog to these Atlantic shoals. Clamavimus, O depths, let the seagulls wail for water, for the deep where the high tide mutters to its hurt self, mutters and ebbs. Waves wallow in their wash, go out and out, leave only the death rattle of the crabs, the beach increasing its enormous snout, sucking the ocean's side. This is the end of running on the waves. We are poured out like water. Who will dance the mast-lashed master of Leviathans up from this field of Quakers in their unstoned graves? Part 5. When the whale's viscera go, and the roll of its corruption overruns this world beyond tree-swept Nantucket and Woods Hole and Martha's Vineyard, sailor, will your sword whistle and fall and sink into the fat? In the great ash pit of Jehoshaphat, the bones cry for the blood of the white whale, the fat flukes arch and whack about its ears, the death lance churns into the sanctuary, tears the gun-blue swingle, heaving like a flail, and hacks the coiling life out. It works and drags and rips the sperm whale's midriff into rags. Gobbets of blubber spill to wind and weather, sailor, and gulls go round the stoven timbers where the morning stars sing out together, and thunder shakes the white surf and dismembers the red flag hammered in the masthead. Hide our steel, Jonas Messias, in thy side. Part 6. Our Lady of Walsingham. There once the penitents took off their shoes and then walked barefoot the remaining mile. And the small trees, a stream, and hedgerows filed slowly along the munching English lane like cows to the old shrine, until you lose track of your dragging pain. The stream flows down under the druid tree. Shiloah's whirlpools gurgle and make glad the castle of God. Sailor, you were glad and whistled Zion by that stream. But see, Our Lady, too small for her canopy, sits near the altar. There's no comeliness at all or charm in that expressionless face with its heavy eyelids. As before this face, for centuries a memory, non especie est neque decor. Expressionist expresses God. It goes past castled Zion. She knows what God knows, not Calvary's cross, nor crib at Bethlehem now, and the world shall come to Walsingham. Part 7. The empty winds are creaking, and the oak splatters and splatters on the cenotaph. The boughs are trembling, and a gaff bobs on the untimely stroke of the greased wash exploding on a shoal bell in the old mouth of the Atlantic. It's well. Atlantic, you're fouled with the blue sailors, sea monsters, upward angel, downward fish, unmarried and corroding, spare of flesh, mart once of supercilious winged clippers. Atlantic, where your bell-trap guts its spoil, you could cut the brackish winds with a knife here in Nantucket, and cast up the time when the Lord God formed man in the sea's slime, and breathed into his face the breath of life, and blue-lunged combers lumbered to the kill. The Lord survives the rainbow of his will. The Exile's Return. The exile is a German Rhinelander returning to his Cologne in 1946, just after the end of the war. There mounts and squalls a sort of rusty mire, not ice, not snow, to leaguer the Hôtel de Ville, where braced pig-iron dragons grip the blizzard to their rigor mortis. The bell grumbles when the reverberations strip the thatching from its spire. The search guns click and spit and split up timber and nick the slate roofs on the Holston Val, where torn-up tile stones crown the victor. Fall and winter, spring and summer, guns unlimber and lumber down the narrow gabled street, past your gray, sorry and ancestral house, where the dynamited walnut tree shadows a squat old wind-torn gate and cows the Yankee commandant. You will not see strutting children, or meet the peg-leg and reproachful chancellor with a forget-me-not in his buttonhole when the uncensored liberators roll into the market square, ground arms before the Rathaus. But already Lily stands, virgin the risen Rhineland, and a rough cathedral lifts its eye. Pleasant enough, voi contrate, and your life is in your hands. Holy Innocents. Listen, the hay bells tinkle as the cart wavers on rubber tires along the tar and cindered ice below the burlap mill and alewife run. The oxen drool and start in wonder at the fenders of a car and blunder hugely up St. Peter's Hill. These are the undefiled by woman. Their sorrow is not the sorrow of this world, King Herod shrieking vengeance at the curled-up knees of Jesus, choking in the air a king of speechless clods and infants. Still the world out-Herods Herod, and the year, the 1945th of grace, lumbers with losses up the clinkered hill of our purgation, and the oxen near the worn foundations of their resting place, the holy manger where their bed is corn and holly torn for Christmas. If they die as Jesus in the harness, who will mourn? Lamb of the shepherd's child, how still you lie. Colloquy in Black Rock. Here the jackhammer jabs into the ocean. My heart, You race and stagger and demand more blood gangs for your nigger brass percussions, till I, the stunned machine of your devotion, clanging upon the cymbal of a hand, am rattled screw and footloose. All discussions end in low water, slump and dumps and death. My heart beat faster, faster. In black mud, Hungarian machinists give their blood for the martyr Stephen who was stoned to death. Black mud, a name to conjure with. Oh, mud for watermelons gutted to the crust, mud for the mold-tide harbor, mud for mouse, mud for the armored diesel fishing tubs that thud a year and a day to wind and tidal rust. The heart skip and the quake that shakes my house to Jericho of clay and trumpet death. My heart beat faster, faster. In black mud, Stephen the martyr was broken down to blood. Our ransom is the rubble of his death. Christ walks on the black water. In black mud darts the kingfisher. On Corpus Christi heart over the drumbeat of St. Stephen's choir I hear him stupor mundi, and the mud flies from his hunching wings and beak. My heart, the blue kingfisher, dives on you in fire. Mr. Edwards and the Spider. I saw the spiders marching through the air, swimming from tree to tree that mildewed day in latter August when the hay came creaking to the barn. But where the wind is westerly, where gnarled November makes the spiders fly into the apparitions of the sky, they purpose nothing but their ease and die urgently beating east to sunrise in the sea. What are we in the hands of the great God? It was in vain you set up thorn and briar in battle array against the fire and treason crackling in your blood, for the wild thorns grow tame and will do nothing to oppose the flame. Your lacerations tell the losing game you play against a sickness past your cure. How will the hands be strong? How will the heart endure? A very little thing, a little worm or hourglass blazoned spider, it is said, can kill a tiger. Will the dead hold up his mirror and affirm to the four winds the smell and flash of his authority? It's well if God, who holds you to the pit of hell, much as one holds a spider, will destroy, baffle, and dissipate your soul. As a small boy, on Windsor Marsh, I saw the spider die when thrown into the bowels of fierce fire. There's no long struggle, no desire to get up on its feet and fly. It stretches out its feet and dies. This is the sinner's last retreat, yes, and no strength exerted on the heat thin sinews the abolished will. When sick and full of burning, it'll whistle on a brick. But who can plumb the sinking of that soul? Sinner, oh brother, picture yourself cast into a brick kiln where the blast fans your quick vitals to a coal. If measured by a glass, how long would it seem burning? Let there pass a minute 10 trillion, but the blaze is infinite, eternal. This is death, to die and know it. This is the Black Widow death. After the surprising conversions. September 22nd. Sir, today I answer. In the latter part of May, hard on our Lord's ascension, it began to be more sensible. A gentleman of more than common understanding, strict in morals, pious in behavior, kicked against our goad. A man of some renown, an useful, honored person in the town, he came of melancholy parents, prone to secret spells. For years they kept alone. His uncle, I believe, was killed of it. Good people, but of too much or little wit. I preached one Sabbath on a text from Kings. He showed concernment for his soul. Some things in his experience were hopeful. He would sit and watch the wind knocking a tree and pray as this countryside our Lord has made. Once when a poor man's heifer died, he laid a shilling on the doorsill. Though a thirst for loving shook him like a snake, he durst not entertain much hope of his estate in heaven. Once we saw him sitting late behind his attic window by light that guttered on his Bible. Through that night he meditated terror, and he seemed beyond advice or reason, for he dreamed that he was called to trumpet judgment day to Concord. In the latter part of May, he cut his throat. And though the coroner judged him delirious, soon a noisome stir palsied our village. At Jehovah's nod, Satan seemed more let loose amongst us. God abandoned us to Satan, and he pressed us hard until we thought we could not rest till we had done with life. Content was gone, all the good work was quashed. We were undone. The breath of God had carried out a planned and sensible withdrawal from this land. The multitude, once unconcerned with doubt, once neither callous, curious, nor devout, jumped at broad noon, as though some peddler groaned at it in its familiar twang. My friend, cut your own throat, cut your own throat, now, now. September 22nd, stir the bough, cracks with the unpicked apples, and at dawn the small-mouthed bass breaks water, gorged with spawn. The Ghost. This is a poem adapted from Sextus Propertius. A ghost is someone. Death has left a hole for the lead-colored soul to beat the fire. Cynthia leaves her dirty pyre and seems to coil herself and roll under my canopy, love's stale and public playground where I lie and fill the run-down empire of my bed. I see the street. Her potter's field is red and lively with the ashes of the dead. But she no longer sparkles off in smoke. It is the body carted to the gate last Friday when the sizzling grate left its charred furrows on her smock and ate into her hip. A black nail dangles from a fingertip and lethe oozes from her nether lip. Her thumb bones rattle on her brittle hands as Cynthia stamps and hisses and demands. Sextus, has sleep already washed away your manhood? You forget the windowsill my sliding wore to slivers. Day would break before the 7 hills saw Cynthia retreat and climb your shoulders to the knotted sheet. You shouldered me and galloped on bare feet to lay me by the crossroads. Have no fear. Notice who snatched your promise has no ear. But why did no one call in my deaf ear? Your calling would have gained me one more day. Sextus, although you ran away, you might have called and stopped my bier a second by your door. No tears drenched a black toga for your whore when broken tile stones bruised her face before the Capitol. Would it estrange your purse to scatter 10 cheap roses on my hearse? The state will make Pompilia's Chloris burn. I knew her secret when I kissed the skull of Pluto in the tainted bowl. Let Nomus burn her books and turn her poisons into gold. The fingerprints upon the potsherd told her love. You let a slut whose body sold to Thracians liquefy my golden bust in the coarse flame that crinkled me to dust. If Chloris' bed has left you with your head, lover, I think you'll answer my arrears. My nurse is getting on in years. See that she gets a little bread. She never clutched your purse. See that my little humpback hears no curse from her close-fisted friend. But burn the verse you bellowed half a lifetime in my name. Why should you feed me to the fires of fame? I will not hound you, much as you have earned it, Sextus. I shall reign in your 4 books. I swear this by the hag who looks into my heart where it was burned. Propertius, I kept faith. If not, may serpents suck my ghost to death and spit it with their forked and killing breath into the Styx where Agamemnon's wife found us in the green circles of her life. But beat the sycophant ivy from my urn that twists its binding shoots about my bones where apple-sweetened Anio drones through orchards that will never burn while honest Heracles, my patron, watches. Anio, you will please me if you whisper upon sliding knees, for Perseus, Cynthia is here. She shakes her blossoms when my waters clear. You cannot turn your back upon a dream, for phantoms have their reasons when they come. We wander midnights. Then the numb ghost wades in the Lethean stream. Even the foolish dog stops its hell-raising mouths and casts its clog. At cockcrow, Charon checks us in his log. Others can have you, Sextus. I alone hold, and I grind your manhood bone on bone. Beyond the Alps, these are reflections on the train from Rome to Paris. Reading of how the Swiss have thrown the sponge in once again, and Everest is still unscaled. I watch our Paris Pullman lunge, mooning across the fallow alpine snow. Oh, bella Roma, it's against my will, like the trilingual Roman cooks who go forward on tiptoe, banging on their gongs. I leave the city of God where it belongs. O gods, when the breast-thumping blimp unfurled the eagle of Caesar, he was one of us only, pure prose and less miraculous than those grand tours that our grandparents made immortal when the artist followed trade while breezing on his trust fund through the world. Oh, just to dog the crowd. Papa, 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 la Santa Libertà. New England Puritan, you could only see a sort of bread and circus piety. St. Peter's idols, white as death and hope, turned ultraviolet when you cheered the Pope, who wiped his glasses, backed against a wall, and watched the reds and black shirts merge to scrawl Morte Americane in full view. The lights had washed them a cerulean blue, like virgins signing on the dotted line, no peace on earth. Here saints believe and act, bricks turned to gold by fiat. They resign, God's mother risen to the realm of fact. The Holy Father drops his looking glass and listens. His electric razor purrs, his pet canary chirps on his left hand. God's in his heaven, Mary's back in furs, black market princes liquidate their stock. Oh, Father, you believe? You understand why God, who broke this Roman boot on rock, still herds his people to the coup de grace? Lion of Judah, when the evil eye of Satan, cloak and dagger gone, shall die, there where your Switzers slope their pikes and push, O pious, through the monstrous human crush, will Caesar, lynched and booted to blind shape, clear the piazza with a whiff of grape. I thought of Ovid, for in Caesar's eyes that tomcat had the number of the beast. Where the young Turks are facing the red east and the twice-stormed Crimean spit, he cries, Rome asked for poets. At her beck and call came Lucan, Tacitus, and Juvenal, the black republicans who tore the tits and bowels of the mother wolf to bits. Beneath a psychopath's divining rod, deserts interred the Caesar-salvaged bog. Imperial Tiber, O my yellow dog, black earth by the black Roman sea, I lie with the boy-crazy daughter of the god Il Duce Augusto. I shall never die. Life is for children. At the hospital, Sister Angelica received my call bluely and put me in your shoes a mile from nowhere, Santiana. When you died, true to your boyish shyness of the bride, no shock of recognition made her smile. While the rash Texan Thomas sent to task your old Franciscan rapper's Mongol mask loiters, I see your child's red pencil pass bleeding deletions on the proofs you hold under your throbbing magnifying glass, that worn arena where the whirling sand and broken-hearted lions lick your hand, refined as yellow as a lump of gold. Spirit gives life, you say. Will letters kill the calm eccentric if by heaven's will he found the church too good to be believed? I died, the nuns will tell you, as I lived. That's how they rhyme and riddle what I wrote of Christ, whose faith is too pragmatical to nurse illusion. Jesus wept when Paul, who sowed the winds with dogma, missed the boat. I preached the truth was what my hand could reach, and gave the bottomless evangel so. Essence took heart and landscape from my speech. Dying, I fancied the blue sisters pressed like geese girls hissing. Rome must give her best. Let Curtius in full armor fill the whole. My mountain climbing train has come to earth. Tired by the querulous hush-hush of the wheels, the blear-eyed ego kicking in my berth lies still and sees Apollo plant his heels on terra firma through Aurora's thigh, fire-branded socket of the Cyclops' eye. O Machiavellian vision charged with good, dog-star of Athens, when the goddess stood, prince, pope, philosopher, and golden bow, pure mind and murder at the scything prow, Minerva, the miscarriage of the brain, decipher Europe, vibrate through my pain. Now Paris, our black classic, breaking up like killer kings on an Etruscan cup. Katherine's dream. It must have been a Friday. I could hear the top floor typist thunder, and the beer that you had brought in cases hurt my head. I'd sent the pillows flying from my bed. I hugged my knees together and I gasped. The dangling telephone receiver rasped like someone in a dream who cannot stop for breath or logic till its victim dropped to darkness in the sheets. I must have slept, but still could hear my father, who had kept your guilty presence but cut off my hair. He whispers that he really doesn't care if I'm your kept woman all my life, or ruin your 2 children, your wife, but my dishonor makes him drink. Of course I'll tell the court the truth for his divorce. I walked through snow into St. Patrick's yard. Black nuns with glasses smile and stand on guard before a bulkhead in a bank of snow whose charred doors open as good people go inside by twos to the confessor. One must have a friend to enter there, but none is friendless in this crowd, and the nuns smile. I stand aside and marvel. For a while the winter sun is pleasant and warms my heart with love for others. But the swarms of penitents have dwindled. I begin to cry and ask God's pardon of our sin. Where are you? Your with men are gone. All the forgiven couples hurry on to dinner and their nights, and none will stop. I run about in circles till I drop against a padlocked bulkhead in a yard where faces redden and the snow is hard.